Hello everyone, welcome to UGC NET Political Science classes by Drishti IAS. I am Dr. Ashwati. Students, in the last class we have dealt with Pandita Ramabai, a very famous Indian feminist and political thinker. In this class, I will be discussing about M.N. Roy, who is well known as a radical activist, revolutionary and a freedom fighter. So, let us check out about M.N. Roy. His original name, actually I will first deal with his life. M.N. Roy was born in 1887 in a village called Arbelia. His original name was not M.N. Roy, but rather his original name was Narendranath Bhattacharya, and there is a story behind it, like why his name was changed to M.N. Roy, that we will check out later. So, he was born in 1887 in Arbelia, and he belonged to a family of priests, and his father later on became a teacher as well, and he died in Dehradun in 1954. M.N. Roy was strongly influenced by the ideas of Vivekananda, Aurobindo Ghosh, Bankim Chandra, and he was also attracted to the the political ideas of Aurobindo Ghosh as well. So, you can see that three writers as well as activists like Vivekananda, basically Vivekananda, then after we have Aurobindo Ghosh, and then after Bankim Chandra. All these people actually left a deep impression in the life of M.N. Roy, which actually we can say that gave a boost to him, like in a way like he has to work towards the country for the freedom, because in those days we were under the colonial rule. So, he had differences of, so like not jumping to the Lenin's chapter, but before that he was associated with, when he was in India, he was associated with Anushilan Samiti and various other like revolutionary groups, and in 1915 onwards he was involved in various conspiracies and things, like he was associated with the Kanpur conspiracy case. Later on he went to Indonesia to procure arms to fight against the British. Later on he went to United States of America, where he had to change his name as well, because by that time the British intelligence was got a kind of information that M.N. Roy has moved to USA. So, at San Francisco he changed his name from Narendranath Bhattacharya to that of M.N. Roy. From United States of America, he then again moved to Mexico, and he is having the title he is the founder of the Communist Party of Mexico in 1917. So, you can say that M.N. Roy was not limited to the country itself in the struggle for freedom, but rather he moved to various countries as well, and he was staunchly against the British imperialism. Then after, he actually as he was associated with the Communist Party, then later on he had differences of opinion with the Lenin at the second Congress of the Comintern on the strategy and tactics to apply to the national and colonial questions. This was actually asked in UGC NET examination. His debate with Lenin was related to Comintern's Oriental policy. So, we will check out why they had a kind of a difference. Roy came forward with his own thesis known as the supplementary thesis on the colonial and national question. Roy held that peoples in the colonial countries need not to go through the stage of bourgeoisie democracy. So, M.N. Roy was of the opinion that the people who are living in the colonial countries, they don't need to go through the stage of bourgeoisie democracy, and he gave primacy to the socialist revolution, and he was expelled from the Communist International in September 1929. This year is quite important because by this time there was a new leader for USSR by this time, and that was Joseph Stalin. Okay. So he advocated a new philosophical idea known as, so by the time like they later on came back to India in 1930, he was arrested as well. He spent some time in jail, and till 1947 we can say that M.N. Roy kept his communism. Later on he shifted to new humanism or radical humanism, and in this case he actually criticized the Marxism, and to him Marxism was actually, he started criticizing its very foundations, and to him individual was prior to society. That was the idea of M.N. Roy, and he actually identified in his famous work that I will be mentioning here as well. That work's name is New Humanism, a Manifesto, where he actually critically analyzed Marxism, its interpretation of history as well. He questioned, and to him individual is prior to the society. So for him, he emphasized more on the aspects of freedom. Apart from that, he identified the shortcomings of the parliamentary democracy. So what sort of democracy was prescribed by M.N. Roy? He prescribed a kind of a democracy that should be decentralized democracy. It means that the real power should vest with that of the people, then it only can bring about a great decisive change among the people, and it is going to be in the greater benefit of the state as well as the society. So this was the major idea by M.N. Roy. So always remember that he promoted decentralized democracy, as well as he wanted that even the economic liberalization was also felt necessary by him. There are so many areas that he has covered. There is a work called the 22 Theses that he gave on this aspect. And students, then after he died of heart attack in 1954, and you can see that he considered Marxism as a faulty doctrine which retarded the growth of a free man. So here what we understand is that he emphasized on the need for freedom. Freedom as a very important element for the betterment of the society and the individual. So everything was believed to be in the promotion of freedom, and he spoke about decentralized democracy, which we call it as grassroots level democracy. Now I will mention about his major works, and we will learn them in a chronological order. So let's check out the first work, or we can say that one of the first prominent work by M.N. Roy. There are so many works by him. I have actually charted out only those which are very important ones. So let's check out the Communist International, published in 1920, India in Transition, published in 1922, What Do We Want, published in 1922, 1 Year of Non-Cooperation from Ahmedabad to Gaya, published in 1923. So you can see that M.N. Roy was writing consistently, like after every year he was bringing out his works. The Future of Indian Politics, published in 1929. The Historical Role of Islam is a very important work by him. The Historical Role of Islam, published in 1937. The Russian Revolution, published in 1937. So you can see that this was like when he returned to India, when he was actually put behind bars for his participation in the Kanpur conspiracy case. That was an arms case basically. So here you can see that he was, despite the fact that he was sentenced to jail, as well as like various things, everything, like things were changing in his life. He was moving from one country to the another, like from Indonesia. First he went to the Indonesia, then after to USA, then he went to Mexico, then after he traveled across like this USSR. So you can understand that this person was not limited to this country itself, but rather like Subhash Chandra Bose also, he was actually kind of tried to garner support from various sources. In the initial stages, he wanted support from the, somewhere he thought that the Axis powers like the Germans, the Japanese, they are going to help him. He had things like that. But when he found that no, these things are not happening, later on he switched to other groups as well. So you can see that how this M.N. Roy is not something just a revolutionary or just a person who was like, you know, fighting for the freedom struggle, but rather than that, this person actually made various attempts in this country as well as abroad to like, you know, to fight for the cause of freedom for our country. The Russian Revolution, published in 1937. India and War, published in 1942. War and Revolution, published in War and Revolution, International Civil War, published in 1942. The Problem of Freedom, published in 1945. Revolution and Counter-Revolution in China, published in 1946. Beyond Communism, published in 1947. Reason, Romanticism and Revolution, published in 1952. And like, you know, before his death also, he wrote on New Humanism, a manifesto. He gave the 22 theses as well. You can read out the 22 theses from internet. You can check out, you know, there are so many sources available. For this lecture, I have, you know, gone through the, there is one article on M.N. Roy given in the Indian Political Thought book by M.P. Singh and Himanshu Roy. It's one of the best book that you can have on Indian political thought. You can read Ruchi Tyagi as well as you can read multiple other books. Thomas Pantham's book is there, Vidit Bhattacharya, many others have written on Indian political thought. So in the market you have so many books, but yes, always keep at least 3 books for your reference, as you people have like either doing MA or you are done with your PG. So it is very important that you should not limit yourself to just 1 or 2 books, but rather than that, you should actually keep on, you know, reading other books as well, so you get many information. So it's very important, students, and for me, every time I always suggest my students that stick to various books and be a good reader. Keep on reading requires patience. It's very important, students. So, you know, you can just, you know, start writing things, whatever information you gather, start scribbling. It's very important. Like I have, like personally, even I have got a notebook, a very large notebook, where I keep on writing about, you know, okay, first I will put this M.N. Roy, and I will, you know, after reading 2-3 books, I will write down things, whatever I have found as like very interesting ones. After that, what I do is like I always deliberately leave 1 extra page. Why? What if I come across some other new information, then I should be able to write it there. And I always use different color pens and many other things. It is just a way of write, you know, and I always use diagrams as well and using the flow chart and various things. So it actually helps in better understanding, because we are more attracted towards the figures as well as, you know, the flow charts. All these things actually help us to help us in better memorizing the concepts. It's very important, students. So keep it in your mind. These are the simple tricks to learn new things as well as to keep them for a very long time in your memory, in your brain. So once again, I am repeating. The Communist International, published in 1920. India in Transition, published in 1922. What Do We Want, published in 1922. 1 Year of Non-Cooperation from Ahmedabad to Gaya, published in 1923. The Future of Indian Politics, published in 1929. The Historical Role of Islam, published in 1937. The Russian Revolution, 1937. India and War, 1942. War and Revolution, International Civil War, 1942. The Problem of Freedom, 1945. Revolution and Counter-Revolution in China, 1946. Beyond Communism, published in 1947. Reason, Romanticism and Revolution, 1952. And he also wrote this work called New Humanism, a manifesto, and his 22 thesis is also very important, with reference to his shift from Marxism to that of radical humanism. It's very important, students, don't forget. Now we will check out some questions that were asked in UGC NET examination. M.N. Roy's integral scientific humanism is also known as. New Humanism? Answer is D. M.N. Roy's integral scientific humanism is also known as New Humanism or Radical Humanism. Next question, in which of the following countries Narendranath Bhattacharya settled under the name of Manabendranath Roy? I have already mentioned in the class, and that country is USA. So, here what we understand is that when he moved from Indonesia to that of USA, and it became like, because US was already an ally of United Kingdom, the British Empire. So, the British intelligence agencies were quite active in USA, and they got the information that M.N. Roy was hiding in USA. So, it became necessary for Narendranath Bhattacharya to change his name to M.N. Roy, and he received much like, that fame with his name M.N. Roy. So, answer is USA. And later on he went to Mexico as well, where he founded the Communist Party. Okay, the Mexico Communist Party in 1917. It's very important, students, that you have to keep it in mind. And such questions may also be asked in the UGC NET examination. They may ask like, in which country M.N. Roy founded the Communist Party? That is Mexico. And Mexico shares borders with United States of America. The southern borders of USA touches with that of Mexico. Now, given below are two statements, one labeled as assertion and other as reason. M.N. Roy did not accept Marx's materialistic interpretation of history. Yes, it is a correct statement. It had an element of determinism and idealism. These are the words by M.N. Roy. So, in that way, both A and R are the true, and R is the correct explanation of A. So, A is the correct answer. Always remember that M.N. Roy was initially a communist. Later on, he criticized communism itself, and he gave the idea of New Humanism, where freedom is given more importance, where he talked about parliament, like, he identified the shortcomings of the parliamentary democracy. With that also, he spoke about like promotion of the decentralized democracy. So, students, thank you for watching my lecture. See you in another lecture. Bye.